are all destined for death. That is the theme today as we continue our discussion on the Sword of Destiny, specifically the short story self-titled The Sword of Destiny. We are looking specifically at a handful of themes, most evident in those that are unwilling to comply with new societal changes, those that hold on to the old magics and the old ways of being. We are looking at what is destined for them and what is destined in making us change, how we handle that. We are going to explore this in an existential psychoanalytic lens as always. So without further ado, let's hop in.
That's what it's gotta be this time. Yeah. Sun starts to set and the moon should rise.
So this story is an interesting one. So far we've really been looking at monsters as how they connect to men. That's a theme we've been exploring as we go through the show. If you haven't watched the earlier videos, I suggest you go back and take a look and see how we built up to the ideas at this point. This is a fascinating book. I highly suggest you take a look. But as we go through it, what we've seen is this discussion surrounding what does it mean to be a monster? What does it mean to assimilate? What does it mean to act within a sense of freedom? And what does it mean to commit oneself to society? So at this point, we're at an interesting stage. Short synopsis, spoilers ahead. What we are watching is a shift. Instead of interacting in the city or the things just outside of it, we are now far removed. We enter a forest where Geralt has discovered a young girl and is trying to help her survive it, as well as an old friend. Ultimately, they connect with the Dyrets, right? The keepers of the forest, the women that engage out there. Geralt has connected with them before. He is sent on a missionary mission to try to get them to basically give up some of their forests that they're unwilling to do. Ultimately, it ends with them all being sent on their way as they discover that Ciri isn't meant and destined for them, but destined for Geralt. So looking at the specific themes in this, there's interesting, from the gate we talk about 3 different types of people, right? We talk about the cat and the bird and those that are unwilling to engage. And ultimately, this becomes the parallel in the framing for the story. Geralt talks about the cat and the bird. He talks about this engagement between the two and asks, which one are you? Are you the one that fights? Or are you the one that gets hunted? Are you doomed? And is this circular? Does this pattern repeat? Which, if you've watched this show at all, circle theory is kind of into that idea. But regardless, so now we're at this point where we're looking at what are those that have been completely unwilling to assimilate. We discussed the shapeshifters in an earlier video on The Last Wish and how they're able to find a way to engage and exist. But what about those who aren't? What about those that are separated and unwilling to give up because they believe there is something of value in the system they've created? This text suggests that the outcome isn't necessarily good. Ultimately, the new age is coming in. It will destroy and burn down the forest. And we see this all framed in discussion around the Sword of Destiny, right? Which is described as a dual-edged sword, something that cuts both ways. And once delayed, does not make it go away, only makes it more destructive when it comes. Or at least that's how Mousesack represents it. The idea is very existential. It is ultimately we're all destined for death. Just as man has come in and destroyed these forests and destroyed this way of life, so too will happen for them. The idea is, as a generation that we hold on to, and the values will be destroyed by the next one. This circular process of atrophy is a natural process. And how we cope with that is central to the themes discussed in this work. As I said, we discussed those who assimilate, those that are separated, those that learn to cohabitate. And now we are discussing those that have to die. Those that simply are incapable or unwilling. And ultimately, this ends up being the oldest ideas, the ones that have been there the longest and seem to deserve it the most. And Geralt is a fascinating hero because he understands this. He understands the value of what they have, even though he doesn't choose to cohabitate with it. He sees the value of their territory, and he knows what's coming in, and he knows that his mission is pointless. And so now this becomes a parallel for him, as he looks at this being the place where he originally recreated. A thing we've discussed, right? As we go back to some of our other videos, the idea of recreation of ideas, symbols, and themes. This is a place where he's tried. but he knows it's coming to an end. And he knows at this point that his destiny is likely coming for him, just as it is for everyone else, which is ultimately something he will have to deal with by the end of the book. So if you think that this is interesting, if you enjoy psychoanalytic theory, please stick around. Next week we're hopping into something more, the next story in the book. In the meantime, please check out one of our other videos. We also have on every Thursday, we are doing videos on Rollo May, The Courage to Create, perhaps every Wednesday. But I hope that you stick around, like, subscribe, comment, all of that. That support means so much to me and to us and putting this together. Until then, I will...